Welcome to Left Coast Live. It is Thursday, May 30th. I am your host, Dieter McBusiness, joined as always by the one and only Stat Pat, Stateless Patriot. And I got some good news, Stat Pat.
What's
Trump
that?
is guilty on all 34 counts. Isn't that just
No
fantastic
way.
for our country?
Nuh-uh.
Yeah. Yes, huh?
For real times a million?
It's a conspiracy.
Yep, totally.
It's a conspiracy.
They're just out here trying to get rid of, criminals. How dare they?
Where were you when? So I don't know if you want to watch some coverage or if you want to give your basic. Let's just do basic reactions. I mean, I'm not terribly surprised. I, thought that the thoroughness of the, basically the reputation of the entire New York prosecuting community was on the line. So they just hammered it with evidence, and it sounds like the jury was just overwhelmed with the evidence. I mean, to find him guilty on every single count,
right? Not to mention
an airtight case to me.
It's actually really amusing the fact that Trump had to sit there as they went through all 34 counts and just hear the word guilty 34 times, one right after another, like a hammer beating into a nail until there's nothing left. Obviously there's something to it, right? Otherwise, why did all of it stick?
You want to see his reaction? Public reaction?
Yeah, let's bounce off of some media reactions and whatnot.
All right.
I feel like his would be the best to bounce off of. What we got? He looks so defeated. And look at him. Sad.
This was a disgrace. This was a rigged trial by a conflicted judge who was corrupt.
They didn't seem very conflicted,
bud. It's a rigged
bud.
trial, a disgrace. They wouldn't give us a venue change.
He's clearly getting older.
Change.
Yeah, he's clearly the years are starting to wear on him. All this traveling and attention and stuff is gotta be wearing on him because he's really focused right now and just repeating words. And
all these
still able to. It's just the same talking points, and it's like somebody whispered in his ear right before he got to the microphone. Disgrace, sham, rigged. Go.
We were at 5% or 6% in this district, in this area.
He said they wouldn't give us a venue change
trial. The real verdict is going to be
as if it would have made a difference.
November 5th by the people, and they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here. You have a Soros-backed DA, and the whole thing. We didn't do a thing wrong. I'm a very innocent man, and it's okay. I'm fighting for our country. I'm fighting for our Constitution. Our whole country is being rigged right now. This was done by the Biden administration in order to wound or hurt an opponent, a political opponent, and I think it's just a disgrace. And we'll keep fighting. We'll fight till the end, and we'll win because our country's gone to hell. We don't have the same country anymore. We have a divided mess. We're a nation in decline, serious decline. Millions and millions of people pouring into our country right now from prisons and from mental institutions, terrorists, and they're taking over our country. We have a country that's in big trouble, but this was a rigged decision right from day one.
All right.
Fox News alert.
All right, let's see how this guy. This is the go-to guy, constitutional lawyer that Fox News uses to be like, what did the Constitution say? This is for all the strict constitutionalists in the audience because the audience thinks that the Constitution was ordained by God or was, spoken to the framers through their attendance at church.
In just about 2 hours, 12 New York City jurors will continue deliberating Donald Trump's fate as the country awaits their highly anticipated verdict. Fox News contributor, law professor at George Washington University, Jonathan Turley is live outside the courthouse as he's always been over the last 6 weeks.
This isn't, here we go.
The voice that matters is the voice of the jury, and the jury has spoken.
Just minutes ago, the Manhattan DA spoke to the media for the first time since a New York jury reached a historic verdict this afternoon in former President Donald Trump's so-called hush money criminal trial. Trump was found guilty on all 34 felony counts. He is now the first former U.S. president to be convicted of felony crimes. It's a decision the former president is blasting, calling it rigged and a disgrace. Here now to break down the verdict and what comes next is legal and political analyst Wendy Patrick. Thanks for being with us,
Thank you.
Patrick, on such short notice. First, let's just acknowledge that statement first. He's called it rigged and a disgrace. Watching how this legal process played out, is that a fair description of what we saw take place?
Well, what we saw take place is the jury doing what they do. This was a jury box not filled with fans, but fact finders. So their role was very different than perhaps the role of the American public in the voting system. Is they were exposed to a closed universe of information, and it was on that basis that they went in the back and, boy, it came to a pretty swift decision by all accounts. But I think what the president is saying, what the former president is saying, he's complained about the system in general for a very long time, and he's made the same statements about all 4 criminal proceedings. Now, of course, that only leaves 3 of them, although he'll no doubt appeal this one.
Sure.
But the jurors apparently, did what they needed to do, and we don't get to know what they discussed in the jury deliberation room unless they decide to come forward and share that with us.
Which would seem unlikely in this particular case, given our political climate. I don't know that many of them would want to put themselves out there for that.
That's right.
Is there anything particular that jumped out at you about this? Maybe the fact that the jury came back so quickly, or the fact that it was all 34 counts he was found guilty of?
Well, they either had to decide that they had the legal wherewithal to be able to make that finding, or they didn't. So it's not surprising if there was a guilty verdict on 1 count that it would be guilty on all 34 counts. What I think was more surprising is the extent to which everybody underestimated the strength of this case.
Right.
Remember, it was so complicated. Sometimes I feel like we underestimate jurors, that they can't put facts and do the legal analysis, and whether or not there were two lawyers on that jury. They apparently didn't find it as difficult as everybody thought they would to take the facts, to plug it into what, by all accounts, was a complicated set of instructions.
Most people think juries are idiots, right? I mean, I think that's.
Try to fail it. A jury trial if you're a criminal defendant. You got everything going for you, and yet Trump managed to do that.
Yeah.
And I think the last thing I have to say is Chris Hayes' point about the faith in the system is right. I mean, that, I think this shows that the system works, but I suspect Trump's next move will be, as it always is, to denigrate the system, to attack the institutions, to attack the prosecution, to attack the jury system. And so don't pop our champagne corks yet, because Trump's going to run against this system. And our job as lawyers is to make sure that people understand how that system works and how justice was done today.
Yep. All right. Well, there's the illegal. No, I think there's 6 total. There's hush money. There's classified documents. There's January 6th, Georgia election tampering, and then I don't. Yeah. Yeah, it's always the cover up that gets you, right? That's what they say anyway. It's just, I wonder what the effect is going to be on the election. I mean, I know that some recent polls came out, some recent state polls, which we'll take a look at here in a second, that indicate that Trump is going to win. I mean, Vegas right now has Trump at minus 175 for a favorite, which is ridiculous, which means that you need to risk $175 to win 100. That's a big time favorite. So Vegas thinks that Trump's going to win. And I don't know if I disagree. I don't think that, because the thing that's going to kill this news is that it's about a porn star. The thing that's really going to kill this momentum is people are going to be like, it's a porn star. Who cares? It's like if it was the top secret documents, if it was definitely was January 6th, it was Georgia election tampering. But, he could get thrown in jail for this, but I doubt he will be. Yes. Right. Well, the sentencing isn't until July 11th, so that's the next big step, is the sentencing, and then he'll probably instantly file for appeal. But do you want to know? So let's see. What do you? I mean, I don't know really where to go with this, other than to say that I mean, again, it's back to my original attitude towards everything Trump and legal consequences. I will believe it when I see it. Even when he gets sentenced, even if he does get sentenced to go to jail, I still will not believe that this guy is going to suffer any consequences for anything he's done until I see it. I mean, so far I've seen some financial consequences. He has gotten, financially punished a little bit here and there, but nothing proportional to the damage that he's caused. I wonder how many people were really paying attention though to this news as it came out. Like if people really find it to be that big of a deal. Like for example, I ran into someone that I have to be around on a weekly basis that is a Trump supporter, and I have to bite my tongue. And I didn't say anything. I didn't even actually think to say anything. It was weird that it didn't even cross my mind to say anything, but in hindsight, I was like, I could have maybe stuck it in his face if I had wanted to, but I just decided to again, back to the original position. I'm just staying committed. I'm like an alcoholic saying I'm never going to drink again. Like I'm never getting my hopes up for Trump to suffer consequences until I actually see it. So do we want to see a crowd's reaction real quick? I kind of want to see this. This looks pretty good. All right, let's see this.
If you can hear me, there's a lot of passion in this park right now. The former president has alleged a couple of times that because of the police presence here, right, that protesters, demonstrators weren't able to come. They absolutely can, and this crowd is growing here. I've been talking to people who are happy about this verdict, people who are devastated about this verdict. You just saw this man with a passionate plea here. I also just met this gentleman. What's your name, sir?
Jeffrey.
Jeffrey. Jeffrey, What is your reaction as we're all just taking this in right now?
Well, we're watching the legal system work the way it's supposed to work in a democracy. 3 equal branches of government. No one is above the law. He was indicted by a jury of his peers. This was not political. This was not Joe Biden, despite the alt-right rhetoric. It was a grand jury indictment and now a jury conviction of his peers.
They found a smart one.
This is the legal system
They found a
working.
smart one.
And this
I know
is
he's got
how
the Lincoln.
America's supposed to work.
I know he's got the
happy.
Lincoln Project hat on, which is disappointing. But this guy is intellectually accessible. I think if I sat down and had a cup of coffee with this dude, did my homework, had the data, knew his background, knew what his interests were, I think we could get him on board. This is a target for me. Is a guy like this.
Happy for America. I feel very happy for democracy because this is how it's supposed to work.
Jeffrey, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Lester, Savannah, back to you.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top.
It's fantastic. It's fantastic. I'm just so thrilled. It's Trump head. Oh, let's see what CNN has to say.
Is now a convicted felon found guilty by a jury of his peers of 34 felony counts of falsifying business records. Some questions that some of you might have. Can a convicted felon run for president? The
Yes.
answer is yes. Can a convicted felon serve as president? The answer is yes. Can a convicted felon vote for himself or herself for president?
No.
The answer is it depends on the state, but in Florida, where Donald Trump lives, former President Trump lives, they tend to defer to the state where the conviction takes place, and that is New York, and felons are able to vote in New York if they are out of prison. So those are some of the questions. Now, I have questions, and Karen, let me start with you, which is, what exactly is going on in that courthouse right now?
I love how that gets like a headline, like whether or not he can vote is like even really consequential to what's going on. I mean, yeah, it might be a little interesting intellectual avenue to go down and say, well, should or should not, like, but at the end of the day, who cares? This is more about what the sentence going to be. Is he going to get thrown in jail or not?
Sentencing is going to be July 11th, which just happens to be within a week of the beginning of the Republican National Convention, for those keeping tabs on the overlap of this case and the political realities in which we live. What are they doing right now? Are the jurors getting out of Dodge? I saw something on the screen saying something about no bail, and I know that this meant like they weren't even thinking about requiring the president to need to put up bail or anything like that. He is a free man, of course. But tell us about what's going on behind the scenes.
So there's a couple things going on behind the scenes right now. First of all, security. There's a whole security protocol that is making sure that everybody, including Trump supporters, are behaving, and including people who wanted the former president convicted, that there's going to be calm and that everybody is okay. So that's going on. The jurors are also being protected and their anonymity is being protected. So they're going to continue to be driven back home, taken back to the place that they essentially came from, so that they can remain anonymous as long as they choose to. One more thing just to also keep in mind, the gag order is still in effect, which I thought was really interesting that Todd Blanche didn't request Judge Merchan, now that the trial's over, now that the jury is excused, that the gag order be lifted, which means...
And just to remind people, sorry to interrupt, but the judge issued a gag order saying that Donald Trump could not talk publicly about the jurors or the witnesses or members of the family of the judge or the prosecution team, but the judge and the prosecution team themselves were completely fair game rhetorically. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
And then in the DA's office, I just saw they're about to hold a press conference at 6:30. I think Alvin Bragg's going to speak. So they're preparing what they're going to say and how they're going to address this. And they are going to, I guess, tell everybody what this means on behalf of the Manhattan DA's office. So I think everybody is doing their various jobs right now and collecting themselves because this is such a big deal. And I also think the DA's office is going to start thinking about sentencing.
Yeah,
and
let's
something
talk.
we should think about.
And let's talk about that now with this side of the table, because I I believe that the judge gets to decide the sentencing, not the jury. Is that standard? Is that how it
Yes.
all? Sometimes the
Yes,
the
that's
jury never
standard.
decides?
What?
In
Even
instances
I know
like
that.
this, no, that's not going to happen. And remember, we know that. In fact, remember what happened during the closing arguments when Todd Blanche made the reference to prison.
No, he would have phrased. No, he would have phrased it as just a reminder: juries decide guilty or not guilty. Judges usually determine sentencing. Like you have to talk about norms. Like the. Yeah, instead of was he well, maybe he didn't know. Maybe he didn't know. I don't know if he's got a JD. I mean, you don't even. Yeah, I mean, I'm proof that you don't need a JD to know that. You just need to be familiar with the system a little bit.
The judge was quite clear in even giving a curative instruction to the jury to say, your job is a fact finder, my job is to actually sentence. And the sentence itself could be a maximum for all charges of 20 years, up to 4 for each count, but the maximum of 20 years. This is a first-time nonviolent criminal offender, though. And so the likelihood of him serving hard prison time is pretty slim, but it does not remove the stain of now being a 34-time felon. And to your point about being a...
Okay, but is there a consequence for how he wouldn't shut up until the gag order? Is that come back to bite him in the ass and he actually does get sentenced to jail? I don't know. I've heard a commentary before we got on. I checked out what popular opinion was, and a lot of people don't think he's going to jail. I think it's going to be something else.
Being a felon and being from Florida, there is a great irony in this instance that he would, if he were in Florida, be asking people to vote for him, and he could not do that. And because it's a crime involving dishonesty and fraud, it's considered under the umbrella of moral turpitude, which means that even after you complete your entire sentence, you'd still have to appeal to the governor of that state.
If he had been convicted in Florida.
If he had been in Florida. And so this irony of Governor Tennessee even having to weigh in prospectively.
So let me ask Ellie. How does this work, the sentencing? Because first of all, obviously, Donald Trump, former President Trump and his legal team are going to appeal. And we've discussed already the grounds for appeal and the arguments that he might bring up for appeal, and there are many. Beyond that, though, he can't appeal until the sentencing, right? And how is that decision made? Does Judge Merchan just go to his chambers and emerge like Moses with tablets? Or are there arguments that are going to be made by Donald Trump's attorneys, by the prosecutors?
There will be intensive investigation and arguments between now and
public one.
Yeah, we will get public filings where the DA will ask the judge to impose whatever sentence they think is appropriate. Donald Trump's team will put in their request, certainly for a non-incarceratory, non-prison sentence. And let me address the question that I imagine is on a lot of people's minds, which is how likely is it that Judge Merchan imposes a sentence of prison? Now, this is a Class E felony. In New York State, you have Class A is the most serious felony. Class E is the least serious
Just to interrupt it for 1 second, we see the former president there
come on,
and his
Jake.
team getting into their
Come on,
motorcade
dude. Yeah,
of
we know.
SUVs to return.
Put text on the bottom of the screen,
this
CNN.
unbelievably
Who's
historic
directing
day.
this shit?
No
wonder
doubt
you guys
he's
are getting
angry, no
your
doubt
ass
he
handed to
is
you. You're the
sad to a
OG,
degree,
man.
Dejected.
If anybody should
Paris
be able to
Cannot
rise
Talk
up
about
and
took
beat
his
Fox
son's hand,
News,
his
it
son
should be
patted him on the
CNN.
back. Whether you think this was the right verdict or not, it is one that weighs
The
heavily on any
OG, but
defendant's
they
emotions.
can't get
and
it
this
done,
is a former
'cause they
president of
stay
the United
stuck
States.
on
I'm sorry, Ollie, go ahead.
If
Jake
we look
Tapper
at the
with
universe
his
of Class E convictions in New York State, and several good researchers out there have done sort of surveys over the last year or so. Generally, the estimates are that somewhere between 70 and 90% of Class E New York convictions result in non-prison sentences. So that would be some combination of probation, fines, perhaps community service. But the converse of that, 10 to 30-ish% do result in prison time. And this will be entirely up to Judge Merchan.
Is there a difference? Are the 10 to 30% that are sentenced to prison for Class E felonies individuals with worse lawyers? Are there individuals with previous criminal records, like Anna said? I mean, is there any sort of delineation?
So I'll give you what the relevant factors usually would be in a case like this. First of all, how big was the offense? How major was the offense? It's a big difference to steal $5 million versus $100,000. Was this person a first-time offender, or are they on their second, third, fourth conviction? Yeah, quality of lawyering can absolutely play into it, but this is the most difficult thing that judges do. I mean, you talk to any judge, they will tell you the hardest part of their job is imposing a sentence. And one other thing I just want to make very clear. If Donald Trump does get a prison sentence imposed on him on July 11th, odds are very, very high he will not have to start serving that sentence right away, because in a case like this, he's very likely to get what we call bail pending appeal, meaning he will almost certainly not have to begin serving any sentence until after all of his appeals are done. That would certainly take us out past the election.
So in November, he could be out on bail?
Yes, he will in all likelihood
See?
in November be... He will
He's
have
going to
been
get away with
sentenced.
it. What a mess. What a mess. This is such a fucking
July,
joke.
and the sentence will not actually be imposed until his appeals are done, which will take us well into 2020.
So the appeal process, just to be clear here, so the appeal process, which will kick in the very moment after sentencing, right? I mean, the Trump legal team already has those briefs ready to go. They're going to appeal every single one, every single avenue they can, all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court, I would imagine. That will take months and months, if not years.
Potentially. So Donald Trump has one appeal as of right to the mid-level New York court, the Court of Appeals for New York, which is the middle level. If he loses there, he can ask the top court in the state of New York, which is actually called the Court of Appeals. The nomenclature gets confusing. He can ask them to take the case. They don't have to, though. It's the same as our U.S. Supreme Court. They can take it if they want to. They don't have to. And then from there, he can try to get it up.
We're watching, by the way, just the motorcade of the former president leaving the courthouse on its way to Trump Tower. Several cars. You see supporters of the former president with Trump flags in the street. And it is an area where there is a lot of security, so there does not appear to be a huge crowd for blocks and blocks and blocks.
So if I had a little army of social media minions out there, I would be, I don't know what you would call it, maybe social media guerrilla tactics, but I would have all the progressives in New York who can, if their schedule provides the opportunity, to go down there and start taking pictures of people and interviewing them, or just getting them on like Instagram or something, and like, hey, why are you here? You support Trump, and what's your name? And get them all documented, have this big like website or social media group or something, like, here are the New Yorkers that are MAGA. Here are your neighbors that are MAGA, like findamaga.com or something like that. You know, it's obviously a very young idea, but you know, don't you think that like something like that would actually be productive? Yeah. Yeah, you want to see this one? Yep. It's going to happen. He's going to win. He's going to win. I'm convinced. I'm preparing for it. It's best, I'm telling you, it's better to be a pessimist. Pessimism gets a bad rap. Pessimism can be useful. It's like what I say about anger, how anger can be fuel, anger can be useful. Some people just try to kind of like deflect anger and push it out of their lives, and other people who are use it for productivity. Other people just try to bury it, and then that becomes depression. But you know, by and large, if you can get people to think of looking at a situation and expecting the worst to happen, then you're never disappointed. And if you end up getting what you really want, then you're thrilled. But yeah, no, my attitude is I don't think we're ever going to be rid of Trump until he passes away. And even then, that's only rid of him as an idea and as a figure and as a symbol. And what he represents will never be eliminated from our society. It'll always be here. There will always our job, our purpose, our goal. Our realistic goal should not be to destroy MAGA conservatism. It should be to isolate, radiate, and mitigate it, because all MAGA conservatism is white trash conservatism. Sorry, but that slur actually is very useful in this situation, because there's just nothing else to call people who are still supporting Trump. Like, you're just white trash. You're just trash. And it's not white trash, I should say. Here's the insight. We got to come to insight every time I bring up one of these cliches or whatever, you know, big buzzwords like white trash. But like, white trash is no longer a label. It's a culture. Or white trash, it never was. Like, white trash is not a label. It's a culture. and it's been earned. It's earned if you're Trump. And let's fit. Yep.
Blocks. It's also
Yeah. No, they're not though. They're not, because it gets worse. And once you get into, we're going to get to you in a second, Thunderbird. Once you get into, I would say, your mid 30s, really late 30s, because I just got through them, you're really set in your ways. Like, I do not tolerate a lot of what I used to be able to tolerate. And I feel a little guilty about that. Now, if the context is really important, then I will just kind of suck it up and keep my mouth shut. But if I find out that you're a Trumplican, like, I don't want you near me. I don't want you, like, unless I have to be with, like, I just don't want anything to do with you. I respect your right to exist. I expect your right to all the benefits, by the way, of the policy changes that I would like to do. I actually have your best interest at heart. You're just too stupid to realize it. And arrogant and entitled and, at the end of the day, narcissistic. Not necessarily narcissistic personality disorder, but narcissistic culture. It is the culture of narcissism. Thunderbird, our most loyal viewer, currently reading The Wannabe Fascists by Federico Finkelstein. Hell of a name. World-renowned expert on fascism. Yeah, of course you would. And then this book does excellent job explaining populism and fascism. We'll check it out, man. I wish The Wannabe Fascists. I wish I could do. I wish I had time for that. That sounds like a good one. I'm stuck in. I'm going old school. Wait, how can I not get rid of this now? Oh, here we go. Okay, good. I'm going old school. I think I already mentioned this, but I'm getting back in touch with my roots, with the Protestant establishment, aristocracy, and caste in America, and getting my head wrapped around this idea of big change needing everybody, including the privileged, the enlightened privileged, so to speak. And it would be nice if we could transform this cultural resentment into cultural enlightenment on the left, and get neoliberals who are of a younger persuasion. I'm talking like 20s and 30s, people who are really going to start to vote more frequently. And I think the younger generation is more attainable now than they ever have been, because the stakes are bigger than they ever have been. I mean, they're in touch with what life is going to be like after college and through college. Student loans is a big deal. I know it's not ranked as high up as a lot of other issues, but I mean, healthcare and just the reputation of the badge. I think the badge is getting rightfully criticized. I mean, you just had an incident with a pro golfer in Louisville because some cop wanted Scotty Scheffler, for those of you who don't know the story, was on his way in to play golf to do his job. And he got pulled over. He made like some mistake in traffic, and the cop pulled him over, gave him a ton of attitude. Apparently, Louisville, Kentucky police force is very intense. I'll just use that word. And it's funny. I've got Kentucky roots, but I'm not familiar with Louisville. But anyway, they have a reputation for sure, and it sounds like they've earned it. I mean, right? Stereotypes are given, reputations are earned. How about that? That's a good one. Did we just stumble onto a Dieter decree? Because people are too caught up we should ascribe values to groups. We should ascribe personality types. Like, we don't need to get into it any more than this, and we should have a person of color on at some point for sure to talk about it, because I'm very curious as to what they think. But fundamentally, the reason why people of color are better at dancing than white people is because they are more comfortable expressing emotions. I don't pretend I have ideas about why. I really do. I have thoughts, but I'm not going to share them yet because I'm working on it for an episode. So I'm going to hold on to that one. But let's be serious. Like, if you got to be delicate here with this conversation when you're talking about stereotypes, reputation. You got to end up getting into racism and, whatever. Unfair generalizations, and you got to be careful with those. But like it or not, it's how our brain categorizes information. And we need to actually turn that into a useful thing. And so I think starting with something fun like dancing, and yes, there are plenty of white people who can dance, but by and large, come on. Are you serious? Have you ever been to a party? Have you ever been to a party with people of color? Okay? They're all pretty good at dancing. They're not necessarily better than you. Maybe you're a good dancer and a white person. I know I can dance. But you got to get over it. Like, it's the truth. It's the truth. So, Right. That's it. Well, communication is the most valuable skill, so if you're able to communicate, you got a much better chance of getting what you want in life. I think we lost a lot when we lost touch with the written letter. The handwritten letter used to mean a lot in society, and it doesn't anything anymore. Obviously, now I'm starting to sound like a conservative. Here we go, Thunderbird again. Fascism believes their violence is justified by a higher power, whether Christianity, Islam, Jewish, or Hindu. Yeah, that's true. The Nazis, though, the Nazis were more like they suffered from the ancient Rome disease. They thought that they were racially superior to other things. So I don't know, like a higher power. Does that really apply to the Nazis? I mean, it wasn't as spiritual. It wasn't. Yeah, I guess they were probably spiritually. They probably considered themselves spiritually superior, but there was never like a religious. There was never a specific religion that was really, invoked. He advocated for positive Christianity, a uniquely Nazi form of Christianity. Oh, surprise, surprise. It was part of their propaganda machine. I don't know what this... Do you know what this means? Got mid-tons? I don't know what he means by that. Thunderbird, clarify. So minus 175 at Vegas for Trump to win. The presidency is probably going to take a hit because of this. I'll be interested to see the state-specific polls, but the net. I hope that's like second grade. Like first grade is national polls for political analysis. Second grade is looking at state-specific polls. I hope people are doing that. Like I don't know if the normie voter out there really understands how important it is to be, aware that only those 5 states matter. Okay, cool. My audio device is working. Cool. All right. So, what else do we want to talk about today? We want to get into what does woke actually mean, and the baby boomers recycling of the term of the concept of political. What's up? No. What happened? No audio?
From my end for all this time. It was fine when I started. How long ago did you say that, Sen? Hey, Anders. It's good to see you.
Oh, man, we're going to...
Oh, that's so lame. I wonder how long that
What happened?
lasted.
What happened?
I guess the audio on my end was just completely off that whole time. You'll be reposting this live stream up on your channel, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna leave it up for a while.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that way.
And I'll probably do videos of it, and then I don't take a live stream down until I do videos of it, or like a week passes or something.
Gotcha. I'll have to download yours in case I wanted to do clips off of it as well, since this one didn't do so. Stupid thing. Oh well. As long as it sounds good on your end, that's fine, I suppose. But it sounds like it's all good now.
All right, you guys want to see how Chicago react? Because we're going to have Chicago DNC. This is something we should talk about. Actually, we'll talk about Chicago and the Democratic National Convention being there this summer, because you may have seen the movie about the Chicago 8 in 1968 and all of the misery that took place and the embarrassing political violence that took place.
The verdict right outside our newsroom today on our huge monitor at Daily Plaza. You may have seen it if you've been in the area. Some were shaking their heads, others took to their phones to share with friends and family. We spoke with one woman who's still trying to wrap her head around all of it.
I think that America needs a facelift. I'm dying to have anyone else in office besides Trump or Biden. I'm dying. I know a lot of people who are choosing to not vote in this election, but this changes it.
In a statement, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker said justice has been served after facing a jury of his peers. Donald Trump is exposed as the liar and fraud that he is. Wow. Stay with CBS 2 for complete coverage of the historic guilty verdict of former President Donald Trump.
All right, well, not surprising how Chicago reacts.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? Chicago, 1968. So they're having the convention there this summer. And it's going to be Obama's home turf, right? That's what they like about it. What they may not have thought of, or at least something they will probably think of and do something about, because they're not stupid, is, might lose my light here. Is my battery dying? So something that they might not have thought of yet is that there are huge Arab populations in the Midwest.
Yeah.
And they are probably going to show up and protest because of Genocide Joe. Yeah, the Midwest Muslims are going to protest Genocide Joe, and they're going to do so passionately and unapologetically.
Right. Yeah.
So we'll see how they handle that. And there's going to be a lot. We'll get on your social media, because the mainstream media probably isn't going to cover it right.
No, of course not. Why would they? Yeah.
What else you got? I got to do.
I mean, I wouldn't blame them either. It's like the past few days now or so, Israel has, I guess this red line of Biden's is like completely, blurred or vague or whatever, because we don't support a major military offensive into Rafah. Well, I mean, you're going to have to define major, because there are tanks going to Rafah right now. There have been airstrikes. Tents have been lit on fire. video of decapitated babies have actually like surfaced and like have been seen by people now, like actual evidence of beheaded babies.
Wow.
Yeah, like actual. Yeah, people burned to death. Like dozens upon dozens of people have been killed in Rafah due to these strikes, due to the IDF going in. So it's like, like ICJ literally ordered like just before they did this offensive into Rafah, you must seize all military operations in Gaza. So something along those lines. And what they do, they went ahead with it anyway. So,
yeah,
so
they don't care.
Yeah, and then I still got some videos on my docket that I need to watch, but the press secretary guy for Biden, I forget.
Blinken?
Who. No, that's the
Oh, the other guy I know you're talking about.
Yeah, I forget.
The uptight white guy?
Yeah, his name escapes me at the moment, but he was just grilled like question after question recently. Like, well, doesn't this count as crossing the red line? Doesn't this count? Like, what's it going to take? Like, how many more children need to be killed in Rafah? Like, what's going to happen? Like, why?
Yeah, you can see the tanks. I've seen videos of the tanks rolling down the street.
This shit right here.
You said now that you don't think a major ground invasion is happening in Rafah right now, but as you know, this is a densely populated area. It all is. I understand that this might be a secondary explosion. The Israelis are describing it as a tragic mishap, but isn't this exactly the kind of incident that you have been concerned about this whole time?
As I said in my opening statement, this exactly does speak to the challenge of military operations in a densely populated area. A challenge, I would add, Mary, that we have been sharing and our perspectives on with the Israelis from our own lessons learned in places like Iraq and Afghanistan. This incident speaks exactly to that challenge.
And despite the loss of life here, do you still believe that this strike was precise and proportional?
There's an investigation. I think we're going to let the Israelis do their work. I don't think you can expect me to speak to the details of a specific strike by Israeli military forces when we had nothing to do with it.
You've called the strike devastating, the images heartbreaking, but you've stopped short of outright condemning this strike. Can you explain why?
We have been, I think, very strident in our condemnations about the deaths of innocent civilians. These deaths are not excused from that. But we have to understand what happened here. There's going to be an investigation. They've already said it was a tragic mistake. They're looking into it. They have been able to investigate themselves and hold people accountable in the past and see what they do here.
Of Israel investigating itself and them finding that they did nothing wrong. Like, because that makes sense. Allowing the perpetrator behind an action to investigate their own action. Yeah, like, they're going to fucking be biased. They're going to say, oh yeah, we did nothing wrong.
Nothing about U.S. policy has changed or is changing in regards to...
As a result of this strike on Sunday, I have no policy changes to speak to. It just happened. The Israelis are going to investigate it. We're going to be taking great interest in what they find in that investigation, and we'll see where it goes from there.
I also want to ask, we saw a good amount of international condemnation after this strike, whether it was from President Macron of France, others in Europe. We have not yet heard from the president publicly at all about this strike. Why is that?
Well, again, I think I've answered this question with that. You've heard the president on numerous occasions in just the last few days about what's going on in the Middle East and other places around the world, and you'll hear from him again. I'm absolutely confident of that.
So Weasel doing a human impression.
Itself is being isolated internationally as we continue to support the operation, and you're seeing
one of the things, and one of the things that we've talked about with the Israelis about the manner in which some of these operations are being conducted, is the real danger that Israel itself could become further isolated from the international community, just by dint of the manner in which they are conducting operations. So this is of concern, clearly, because it's not in Israel's best interest, and it's not in our best interest for Israel to become increasingly isolated on the world stage. As a matter of fact, one of the things the president came into office wanting to do, and actually we had made some progress before the 7th of October, was working towards a more integrated Israel into the region. So it's in our national security interest to make sure that doesn't happen. The president doesn't make decisions, and he doesn't execute on policy based on public opinion polling or on popularity contests. He bases his decisions on our own national security interests, what's at stake for our safety and security here at home and abroad, and what's in the best interest of our allies and partners. Sometimes what's in the best interest of your alliance and your partnership is to be candid, forthright, even tough with your friends, which we have been able to do with Israel.
So I just wanted to clear on that. We spoke about Israel's isolationism there. I just wanted to be clear. Are you concerned at all? Is the administration concerned at all about...
I'm just baffled as to how, like, allowing tens of thousands of people to die in Gaza is for the, like, is the best for our national security, you know?
It's just a buzzword. It's just something he uses to national security this, national security that. It's an easy rhetorical cop-out.
Right. Thanks for joining, James.
A lot of this is just delay. Not so different from what you were talking about earlier. Just like, oh yeah, they're just putting out fires.
Seriously.
I thought I got to that in the last part of my soliloquy.
No, I did.
I did!
I'm sorry, I did not catch isolated.
I thought I got to that in the last part of my soliloquy.
No, I did.
I did!
I'm sorry, I did not catch that.
You didn't get it. Okay, so I'm going to try again, and we'll see. Maybe take two and be better. The president's not making decisions based on popularity or public opinion polls here around the world. He's making decisions about our national security based on those interests and what meets those interests. And it certainly doesn't meet our interest, and it doesn't meet our Israeli partners' interest for them to become further isolated. But he's not making decisions based on that being a worry. He's making decisions based on what's in the best interest of the American people and our safety and security.
Isn't Israel doing that to themselves though? Like, what say do we have if Israel has like the say in our policy over there to begin with? They're the ones isolating themselves. It's their actions. So like we can't provide enough cover for them to make up for that fact. Like, they have to understand this. They have to understand that, like, if Israel is isolating itself from the world by not becoming like the regional power that they want it to be, what does that say about Israel? What does that say about their actions? And like, why you cannot keep playing defense for them when there is nothing worth defending, that none of the actions that they're taking are worth defending to begin with. You would think if you want to maintain this presence in the region and not have Israel be isolated, as you say, you would stand the fuck up to them and say, like, hey, you're not complying with international law. You need to cut this out. You need to seize all military operations, because this is not going to end well for you. You're isolating yourself. Like, we can only do so much for you. Us in the West, we can only do so much for you when it comes to, like, downplaying the atrocities that you're committing, or lying about like what you're actually doing. It's not going to hold that much weight because everybody can see what's happening. Like, even our own allies are saying, like, no, like, we condemn this shit. This is getting ridiculous. You know, like, they have to start fucking waking up to this shit, because the U.S. can't provide cover for like all of their shit. You know.
Well, we're sure gonna try.
Yeah, no kidding.
You bet. The Democrats. There have been 25 different exit ramps on this war. Any time he wanted to, Biden could have put up some horrific image and say, "I want all the networks to blur this out, so that so that TV doesn't see it, but I want all of the journalists to see it."
Yeah.
And then I'm going to ask you a couple questions. Do you think this is an acceptable response to an act of terrorism? And you could even do like a video compilation. And then,
There's
I mean,
so much.
it's real.
Yeah.
I know people don't want to be bothered with it. It's like, oh, icky, Israel, Gaza. I want to stay away from that topic.
Yeah.
Like, it's horrible.
Yeah.
And it's happening, and it shouldn't be happening in today's world. This is unacceptable, especially for a major economic power. And Israel has a lot of economic power, especially for that region.
Yeah, they need to grow the fuck up and actually accept and embrace and understand what is going on over there. Like, what we can see on our phone screens with our own eyes from the areas that these mass atrocities are occurring in and continue to occur in. It's tiring, it's exhausting, but I mean, that's the whole point, is like, make it so that there's so much barbarism, there's so much just unspeakable horrors and terrors that we just shut ourselves off from it because we can't take it anymore. And you can't. You really can't, because you believe in peace for the region. You believe in accountability. It's gone beyond like calls for a ceasefire. It's now calls for just a complete divestment and just disestablishment of the Israeli state. Like it's what else? What other response is there? Like this is literally on the level.
It shows you how powerful the U.S. is, because everybody else is exclaiming genocide.
Yes.
And the U.S. here, meanwhile, is like, oh, but we've got AIPAC to think about. I mean, it's just, It really is that simple.
Yes.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's AIPAC and it's the elite Jews and the people with a lot of money. I mean, when in doubt, follow the money. And there's a lot of Zionist Jews that give to both sides of the aisle.
Yeah.
And there's also on the right side of the aisle, though, there's the cultural aspect where, you know, Christians wish they had the spiritual credibility of Jews because Jesus was a Jew. And, of course, they get an automatic invite to Christian heaven. You know, once they die, they get the opportunity to accept Christ as their Savior, and they get into heaven. And so they're basically like spiritual cousins, okay?
Yeah.
What's ironic about that is there's a third Abrahamic religion called Islam, which also comes from the same family tree, so you should all be thinking of yourselves as cousins, but that doesn't happen for obvious reasons.
Right.
So the, you know, Jewish mafia in America and the just super powerful is media machine. I mean, it's amazing to see guys like Donnie Deutsch, and I know he's Jewish, get up on MSNBC and Joe Scarborough and all these people just act as if we're not watching social media videos, acting as if we're not seeing. And maybe I'm not. Maybe their audience probably isn't seeing that stuff because their audience doesn't watch stuff off of the internet.
They're a generation or two removed because, like, odds are they're not doing that either. They're not scrolling through their phone. They're not going through, like, Instagram Reels or TikTok and seeing this shit firsthand.
No.
Like, for any reason, because, like, why would they? What reason do they have? What reason do they have to, like, just go through YouTube Shorts and whatnot? Like, it's not for them. Like, it's a generational divide. Like, so of course they're not going to be more. And this is where you're seeing all the firsthand breaking, like, videos and images, you know, and like firsthand accounts. Descriptions of what's happening on the ground, the actual on the ground, first and foremost journalism. Like that's where it's all coming from. That's where it all is, and of course
but they're not watching it. They're just not
exactly.
watching it.
So it's like
the fucking boomers. We're back to the boomers, man.
Yeah, fucking.
They gotta pay for this. We gotta find
burn
a
in
way
hell,
for
boomers.
the boomers to burn in hell, boomers. That's gonna be Well, that's why again, bad political marketing. Okay, boomer. What the hell is that?
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about that for a second. This is the three legs, the Dieter three legs to the stool of progressivism in America. Okay, politics, policy, political marketing. So you go woke, you go broke. That's actually, even though that's not true,
it's not.
It sounds good, doesn't it? It
Yeah.
sounds good. Okay, boomer. Nothing special about that.
Yeah,
Nothing special
that
about
was just like a little generational thing.
It's soft. It's soft.
Mm-hmm.
There's no balls. There's no
what's funny
ovaries to it.
What's funny about that one is like it was like a pretty big meme at the time, 2019, 2020, and then the mainstream media like got a hold of it, and you started to see it in like ads here and there, and immediately the meme died. Like that was it. Like the moment a brand or something
loses credibility.
Yeah, just gone.
Well, that's why you got to be aggressive because no one's going to say "burn in hell, boomer."
Of course,
no brand is going to get behind that.
Yeah,
but really, I mean that should be kind of the message going forward. I mean, like we have to. We are, and I totally understand that we have a lot of racial problems in our society, and those should get attention. But I feel like there are a lot of issues that aren't getting talked about, and the biggest one being the generational divide. Like we always talk about division in our society. Does a diverse society work? That's the big question when it comes to American society. Does a diverse society actually work with our complex history?
Right.
And right-wingers will say no, and left-wingers will say yes. And then everybody in between will be kind of confused and kind of not know what to say, and or they just haven't thought about it that much.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the generational divide, we need to not only highlight it, but put it as numero uno. Number one, baby.
Yes.
Issue number one in terms of political marketing is this idea, because right, you got this kind of rightful, understandable attitude of who owes who. Who owes who, right? Does society owe me or do I owe society, right? Well, in today's society, society owes the voter. Society owes the citizen. Why? Because government has not delivered.
Mm-hmm.
Has not delivered. And that's guilty on both sides.
Yes.
Both parties. It's both parties have allowed this situation to deteriorate. Go back to Clinton, the era of big government is over. Fuck you.
Yeah.
That is not the right framing, you asshole.
Yeah.
And he wasn't smart enough to realize, he was so arrogant that he thought he could get away with it. Instead of just saying, yeah, I cheated on my wife, it's a family issue, we're dealing with it. Because that actually takes balls. The thing that I hate about Clinton is that he's a coward. Everybody still thinks that he's like so great. And that's the other thing. This is what the great conversation.
Yeah.
The great conversation the left needs to have is, are we going to shed the baggage of the past? Okay, it's like we can keep Obama, fine. You want to keep Obama around, that's fine. What do you got to say? He tried. Fine. He tried. He did a little bit of good. We don't need to talk about the drone strikes, okay?
Yeah, God.
Among other things.
Yeah.
No one went to jail for the bailout or the, what was it, the bank crisis. Yeah,
of course, yeah.
Yeah, no one went to jail. I mean, it was
ridiculous. Yeah, you should have went after them, yeah. Yeah, no, it's so... That's literally it. Like the biggest divide is really the generational one, and like what better topic, what better issue to point to than the issue of diversity? Everybody you talk to on the right, everyone who's like a dyed-in-the-wool conservative, not the biggest fans of diversity, not the biggest fans of immigration, and they'll go every which way about. They have their talking points ready, blah 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 blah. Whereas, like, yeah, on the left, we do believe in diversity. We believe diversity is strength. Like me and you have talked about multiple times. Learning about different stripes of life, learning about people different from you, that don't come from the same backgrounds and whatnot. Oh, you realize that, they're people too. They're human beings. You can actually have a conversation with them. You're not too different from one another. That is easily, I think, the biggest actual divide when it comes to the left and the right. It's just people's backgrounds, and I think a big something you can point to right now, in discourse, is woke versus anti-woke. It's just a cloak for, this is woke, therefore I'm opposed to it, meaning it's pro-diversity, pro-LGBTQ, pro-feminism, or what have you, It's
just political correctness. It's just another word for political correctness. But.
Exactly. And it's this needs to be embraced because it's literally the strength of the left. It's the strength of progressives. Being woke, being diverse, you can't let the right tear you down with newly created buzzwords that essentially mean the same thing, Right. And people fall victim to this, like James Carville, like you pointed out to me before we started the stream, going after just the whole concept of woke and whatnot. It's why? What's the point of it? Were you turning into Bill Maher? You don't want to be associated with diversity now? When that's the strength, one of the biggest strengths of the left, to begin with? It's what are you doing? This is easy marketing. This is easy messaging for you. And to dismiss it or cast it aside, you're potentially alienating a whole lot of who should be the Democrats' base,
Right. Hold on, I'm getting. Yeah. This is the Bill Maher thing. Hold on one second. I'll bring this up here.
It's not from his show, is it?
No, it'll quote from, yeah.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
There's a certain coastal arrogance in this country.
Oh, God,
and
James
people
Carville
feel
went
it.
on
The
this
Western
show.
far left is habitually
Do they
the
stroke
most
each
stupid,
other
naive
off?
people you can imagine.
Wait, hold on.
Far left is habitual in this country, and people feel it. The Western far left is habitually the most stupid, naive people you can imagine.
Hating on Californians.
Give me a
Dude,
break. Give me a break.
You're from the bayou, bruh. You think you understand America because you spent time in Louisiana and D.C. and, yeah, over the country as a political figure. Where have you actually lived, man? You think you understand America with that freak show personality of yours? You think you can actually get down with the normie voter in America on the West Coast? I don't think so. I don't think so, Jim. I think you're a dinosaur.
Yeah.
I think you're a dinosaur, and you should be doing a lot more listening than you are talking.
Yeah, no kidding.
Really goofy constructs, and it's all about feeling good about yourself.
Yeah, well, just feeling, as opposed to like free speech. Like if your feelings are hurt, that's more important than free speech.
Most people don't even know what they're talking about. Overeducated coastal white people got a hold
It's
of the
just
word,
like
and if they do
projection,
everything else,
honestly.
they completely it up, and everybody in the country are.
Now you're speaking my mind.
And if we just could get the humanities faculty at Amherst to shut up, we'd be a lot better off.
So good.
Wow, that was excellent.
Excellent.
The
my ass.
humanities department at Amherst. Let me guess. You tried to go. You applied to Amherst but didn't get in. Is that what happened?
Oh, that's always
Is
the
that
case
why you picked
too.
Amherst?
It's like, and he's not the only one that's happened to.
Why are you hating on academic elites, man? Why are you hating on the super nerds? Why are they hating on the super nerds? It's so ridiculous. It's like, do you know who these people are? They like to read. They like to research. They like to accumulate knowledge so that they can leave behind a legacy of adding value to a knowledge area.
Yeah,
and you're hating on them because you don't like what their conclusions are? Sounds like you're the one who's not tough.
Yeah, no
Sounds like
kidding.
you're the one who can't deal with being told what he doesn't want to hear. Sounds like you're James Carville, because you look like one, a fucking child. What is that? What is that movie? The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. That's
yeah.
who James Carville.
Oh my god, dude. Yeah, no, it's like there, like you can look anywhere and like you can clearly see that like the aspect of wokeism or whatever, like the diversity, that's being that's being attacked far more than free speech in this country. Like, when it comes to free speech, like, what do you have to point to? Like, some extremist far-right people said some really nasty thing, like engaged in actual hate speech and were removed from campus or banned from speaking at an event. Who gives half a fuck? That's not the government doing that.
When they complain about free speech rights being restricted, conservatives, it's actually a smokescreen for them just not liking the fact that their views are not popular in urban and suburban America, which is where most people live.
That's it. That's literally
They're
it.
only popular in rural America,
Yes,
where no
yeah.
one wants to live.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, it's a mountain town.
That's literally it. Yeah, no, it's like getting upset because some like academic centers and whatnot take pride in being woke and understanding woke issues, diversity, civil rights, and just human rights in general, and like, yeah, like, what's wrong with feeling good about that? Like, because they're both like, these people just want to feel good about themselves. Like, okay, like, should I feel bad about myself? Should I believe in heinous things?
Well, it's just acting as if feelings aren't on both sides. I mean, you start like, it's about feeling better than other people. Well, I could say the same thing about you. With what you're trying to do right now, because you're trying to be a contrarian. You're trying to actually, the reason why I think Bill Maher has a lot of these contrarian views is because he is desperate to elevate himself above the academic elites, above people who are actually naturally intelligent, like Bill Burr, who went on there and smoked them.
Yeah, smacked him down. Yeah, yeah.
And he had tried. Did you see that with Bill? Maybe I'll bring that up.
Yeah,
that
no,
was epic.
I saw it multiple times. I love Bill Burr. I'm actually gonna be seeing Bill Burr live in June.
Oh, hell yeah!
Yeah, looking forward to it. He's one of my favorites. Yeah, no, it's like. You just gotta ask them, James Carville and Bill Maher. Does being a contrarian asshole make you feel good? Like, is it a bad thing that because this is what you believe, this is what you adhere to, this contrarianism, like, is it just to make you feel good about yourself? Like, oh, but it's so bad when people believe in woke things or diversity and whatnot, so they can feel good about themselves. Like, even if it is that shallow, it really is just projection. Like, again and again from these people, it's because they think being a contrarian asshole, a gigantic prick, on this issue and that issue, they think they feel good about it. Therefore. Other people who believe in whatever they believe in, they think they just believe in those things because they feel good about it and they feel self-righteous and whatnot. It's like, wow, so you're actually pretty self-righteous then, Bill Maher. Like,
it's hypocrisy.
It
Blatant
really is
hypocrisy.
There's
saying,
nothing to it. You don't actually have any real beliefs. You just it's gross. God.
When people say that
Inauthentic.
when people try to act as if it is an insightful thing to say that emotions drive political views, they are actually talking about sensitivity.
Yes.
They're not talking about just emotions and feelings. They're talking about sensitivity. And the irony here is that the tough guy party, GOP, people who are conservative or speaking to conservatives like Bill Maher and douchebag James Carville are doing in this last video that we saw, they are operating under that cultural assumption that the right is the tough party. Yeah. And they're saying the left is soft, and they're just playing off of that cultural assumption. Again, here we are with the same political tactic. It just manifests in a different way.
Yeah.
So the irony is that the conservatives are the sensitive ones.
Really, though.
The conservatives are the sensitive ones.
Really
the conservatives are the snowflakes. They're the ones who can't deal with these icky trans people getting rights and having access to American society, even though there's so few of them, and they probably live nowhere near you. Yeah. And who cares, dude? I don't understand transgenderism, and it doesn't bother me. I don't care. Yeah. I don't care. I have no idea. I saw on... Vosh went ahead and did a bunch of scientific research on transgenderism, and good for him for doing it. Yeah. I don't have time for that. I don't have to, because it's just different. I'm sure it's fine. The only thing I know is that the general psychology, the DSM-4, doesn't label gender dysphoria anymore as a mental illness. So that's the big one there.
That's you would think like that would hinder their talking points, but it really does come down to things that ultimately don't affect them on a personal level to begin with. Not to mention, I've actually talked about this on my channel before. Like Ben Shapiro has brought up the fact that empathy is stupid. Wow, way to give the game away there, Ben Shapiro.
Wow.
It's
empathy is stupid.
Empathy is stupid because you can't. He's because you can't create policy or engage in politics based on emotions. It's why the fuck not? Why can't you let that? He says you can't let your politics let emotions drive your politics. It's
if you have. If you have authentic spiritual beliefs and commitments to those beliefs, and also, too, there's just the basic idea, this existential reality that we're not here forever.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do while you're here?
Right.
What are you going to do with your life? They call it the present because it's a gift, right, Ben? So why don't you actually, instead of trying to... That's one of those guys. He's trying to shove the feelings away. Yeah. He is... emotionally handicapped. He is relationally retarded.
Yeah.
He does not know how to relate to others.
Nope.
I mean, Ben Shapiro is
you
starting
need
to give
empathy
like
to do
life
that.
advice and stuff.
Yeah.
No, exactly. He doesn't care. And that's, he's also narcissistic, and he's been
Yeah.
conditioned. Everybody's told him he's so great all the time.
Yeah.
And so it's gone to his head. And he talks about everything. He even reviewed Dune. I was like about to sit down and watch his review of Dune too.
God.
And I was like, I have no respect for this guy's opinion on creativity.
No.
Absolutely none.
Yeah, it really does say everything though, because if empathy doesn't drive your politics, then what the fuck are you even in politics for? What is driving you? Like if it's not to lift up people, if it's not to assist in the plight of others, like thinking of others before you, like empathizing with the needs of people who have less than you or don't have a leg up, like a lot of politicians do, or wealthy people do that donate to politicians to keep everything the way it is, like. Clearly, a lot of I literally have a video of this on my channel talking about Ben Shapiro and empathy. Like that's and I basically lay out.
Check it out.
Yeah, I basically lay out all my talking points. I think I made it back in 2020 about why and how empathy drives my politics. It's why I'm a progressive. It's why I'm a leftist.
Yeah, I just talk about it in my opening, first couple of minutes of my first episode, where it's an acknowledgement of ignorance. People don't think about it like that. Yeah. I have no idea what it's like to be you. You have no idea what it's like to be B, right? Dieter Decree number 1. We are all prisoners of our own personal experience.
Yep.
Most people aren't you.
Yeah.
Most people are... I'm getting some weird message from this guy. Ban user and delete their comments. Yeah, it's too bad.
New
We
guy?
had a viewer, but he was just talking about some stuff about the server, like tech stuff. It was sketchy. But anyway, yeah. So, yeah, empathy's everything. It's all about the empathy, and most people develop it. I think it might be a skill. I don't know. I got to do some more digging on it, but I kind of feel like for men, it's kind of the relationship you have with your mother, then it's like, that's kind of usually what gives you an appreciation for. I don't know what it's like for women, but that's what it felt like for me.
Right. It is definitely a skill in a way. Like I've kind of noticed that as well. Like I'll empathize with literally anybody I come across. If I get to know you on a bit of a surface level first, and just see exactly what you're about, what makes you tick, then that empathy can either grow or retract. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah,
Yep.
It's are you worth extending my empathetic energy to or not? It's sometimes it really is that simple.
Let's see. What was the other thing we wanted to do? Burn in Hell, Boomer. We talked about that briefly.
bit, yeah.
We talked about. We'll get into more of that as we complete that segment. I've got more scripted stuff that's relevant to that, which will come out in the next few weeks. This is going to be a big week for me. I think we should do. What do you have some comments you want to read?
That's that's pretty much it. Yeah, I had a few viewers, but that was it. Trump guilty, Israel defies ICJ, Carville anti-woke, boomers, sports, and more. Yeah, just the usual stuff.
Okay. Sweet, man. Well, let's call it a stream. And
Okay.
It was good working with you again. We'll
Absolutely.
say reminding everybody to know the heart but vote with the head, as well as keeping in mind that you don't get change in America by asking nicely.
That's right. Guys, have a
So
good
let's
night.
stop asking.
Yeah. Demand. All right, dude. This is a good one.
All right. Yeah, that was a good